Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, James Ellifritz. And with me, back again, same from last week, it's the David Fry playing multiple positions for Believe Land Media here. Derek Dimmitt. Derek, how's it going?
I'm going pretty good, Jamie. Any chance I get to talk to you is a good day.
Hey, I appreciate that. That's way too kind. Um, if we asked other people that, I don't know if they'd have that same response, but hey, I'll take that compliment. But yeah, welcome back, everybody. It's been an interesting week since our last record. Based on where we're at, we'll talk a little bit about where we're at right now. We're recording Wednesday evening after 8 o'clock. Currently, the Guardians are in a delay at home against the Royals. We are sitting in the standings. We're sitting 2 games back of the Twins. Twins are 45 and 43, and we are currently 42 and 44. Man, I keep having these what's going to happen in the next week by the next record ideas where I'm like, hey, we're either going to have the lead, we're going to be tied for the lead. Even if it's a small number, it's like we just can't get over that hump. And, yes, we had some excellent competition the last 3 games with the Atlanta Braves being the best team in baseball. And boy, did we see it. Derek, what was your take on that series since we lost 2 out of 3 to Atlanta?
Yeah, I think the first game they were in it, only losing by 2, and then had that great Fourth of July game coming back, winning it in extra innings with David Fry having that game-winning base hit to left. Then yesterday, just dig a hole in the backyard and bury that tape. Cal Quantrill, who the Guardians did place on the injured list again today with some shoulder inflammation. I think they may have rushed him back. I know they won't come out and say that, but he didn't look good in either of his starts. Last night, the Braves in the first inning, it wasn't that they were hitting him hard. Rosario's hit to the right center field was definitely the hardest hit ball in that inning, but it was just seeing eye single after seeing eye single, and before you know it, they had a multi-run lead. And with the way the offense has been for much of the year, it was kind of over before the bottom of the first even got there.
Yeah, you got that right. I think that was the Braves' highest hit total for a game this year. And it started out early where they were, Cal seemed to be getting the pitch where he wanted to, but the ball, it was one of those days where, hey, that's just baseball. I heard Rick Manning talk about that, where the ball just finds the hole. And they do they do hit the ball hard. There
Right.
are no breaks in that Atlanta Braves lineup. It takes you back to the 95 Cleveland Indians team that, and I love the conversation they were having on the telecast where talking about now we know what all the other teams in the AL Central were going through
Right.
at that time as we kept running these lineups up in the 90s where offense was the name of the game.
Right.
Chicks dig the long ball. It was home run city. There was still it's a steroid era. I get it. Albert Bell had his cork bat later on. But still, it was to sell 455 straight games at then Jacobs Field. It was because of the offense.
Definitely.
That was the show. That's what you went and you paid your ticket for because you want to see guys going deep. And I'm talking even the guys at the bottom of the order when it was like Manny Ramirez was down there and Sandy Alomar, was down there as well. And I don't know if it was Paul Sorrento, if he went down there, or Tommy. It was some of those guys that were young
Yeah.
that end up being like, 3-4 hitters on other teams or when other players left. That roster and that offense, I will never forget. And I know you're younger than I am, but that summer of '95 was a dream the entire season
Yeah, it was.
to watch those guys hit.
Yeah, it was kind of when I started becoming a fan and really understanding the game, even though I was only 5 years old. Going out in the front yard and mimicking everyone's stance. And
Mm.
good old Grover, he never changed his lineup, so it was easy to remember, Lofton,
Right.
Bisbal, Baerga, the list goes on. And like you said, that's definitely what the Braves have right now. It starts at the top, and there's no easy out. There's no, okay, we got through to that part of the lineup. Now I can settle in and, groove one and just getting out, because 1 through 9, they're smacking the ball all over the field.
Yeah, and it was interesting that in the offseason, Mel and I talked a lot about Sean Murphy and
Right.
whether or not we were going to make that Sean Murphy trade. And to see him play at Progressive Field, we saw his home run last night, and his ability just to hit overall. And yeah, and we're watching Bo Naylor coming up from the AAA, and right now, he's still struggling a little bit. That's fine. It's the adjustment of being and playing in the big leagues. I mean, everybody would get excited over his videos that we saw at
Mhm.
AAA and Columbus, and just like any of the young players, yeah, some guys do come up to the major league level and just start putting on a show right off the bat. Is that sustainable? And I hope like uh Ellie De La Cruz and for the
Right.
Reds, what he's doing is super impressive, and I'm happy for the fans of Cincinnati getting to enjoy that. And we have basically a lot of young guys on our team, one of the youngest team, if not the youngest team in baseball. My question to you is that I know people are excited to get power on this roster, and we could look down and dip down and bring Oscar up again like we did last year. George Valera is down there. Um, do you think that we're going to bring more guys up? Because here's the question that I've been asking myself, and I think all Guardians fans need to do that based on looking at our roster. And yes, we need power. Not going to argue that. But the question is how AAA do we want to get? Because how many guys on our roster don't even have a year to 2 years experience at the major league level yet? I think there's quite a few.
Right, because even Stephen Kwan, even though he was up all last year, he would fall into that category of being under 2 years of service time. Yeah, you know, you want to see the team do well, and it's that balance of, do we call someone up kind of as that shot in the arm, for the offense, but at the same time, it's who goes down in that instance. And obviously we look at the outfield, and the offensive output, at least power wise, is not there, even with Quan and Brennan. And Brennan had a home run this past week, but he's not someone that comes up and strikes fear into the opposition, that he can go deep at any given time. Kind of has to get his pitch and his spot. But it would pretty much have to be Miles Straw moving into that fourth outfielder role, defensive replacement, running for someone late in the game. And then, but who would go down off of the bench then to make that room? Is it Gabriel Arias? Is it David Fry? Um, but here lately, Fry is, in his limited amount of playing time, he's not tearing the cover off the ball, but he's doing enough to kind of warrant being, that sub when Josh Naylor needs a day or two due to an injury, because Josh Bell hasn't shown enough to warrant, being an everyday lineup player, whether
Right.
that's at DH or at first base. So it's definitely a very, very interesting dilemma that the front office faces here as we enter the All-Star break next week, and moving closer to the all or to the trade deadline rather.
Right. And I don't know how you can be sellers at this point just because of the game's back. And I totally get it. Everybody's saying the record we would have going into the playoffs compared to last year and all that. And I haven't looked this up. I thought somebody, either I heard on the radio or maybe somebody told me this, but I think the least amount of wins to win in the regular season of a World Series champion was like 88. I'm not sure. And and
Sure
that, I
on.
mean, that doesn't sound like a super low number, but man, what I don't know what we're going to finish with. But I hope that we are usually, and Terry does a good job, making us a second half team. And the problem I see is that we don't have a lot of those cupcake in division series like we did last year.
Yeah,
So,
that's definitely the downside of the
mm,
balanced scheduling. It's great because you get to see these teams and these players like the Braves coming to Cleveland, and in a regular year, or how it was for much of the past 15 to 20 years, you might see the Braves once every 6 years, and that might be going down to Atlanta. So I think
right.
overall, for the growth of the game, it's a good thing. But when you're in the Central Division and you look at the East, and pretty much all those teams, if they're in the Central, would be in first. And that includes, the team. I think Boston's still last in the East, but they're, right there, three, within 5 or 6 games of being second or first in their division. And like we've said, and like you and Mel have said, it's definitely Central Division championship or bust for the Guardians in terms of making it to the playoffs this year. And I think they would need to be blown away to move uh, someone like a Shane Bieber, less likely to need to be blown away to move a Rosario. I think the writing's kind of on the wall there that this is his, last year here. They want to move forward with either Tyler Freeman, Brian Rocchio, whomever, Arias, whoever wins that shortstop position moving forward. But it's pretty safe to say that Rosario would probably be the most likely player to be moved.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, we got to finally give Ahmed Rosario credit. The guy's
Definitely.
been on a tear. Um, how many multi-hit games, 2 RBI games in a row? What's he batting here? 297
Yeah, for
over
the
his
past
last 8 games, 11 hits, 1 home run, 12 RBIs
right.
to lead the team. Second is Jose with 6.
Yeah.
Josh Bell with 6. So, as much as Ahmed Rosario has been a punching bag to Guardians Twitter and Guardians fans, and yeah, I mean, here's the way I look at it: is if you want to go down, and maybe this isn't the guy, but I have to say that if you look at Miles Straw,
Right.
at the bottom of the order, yeah, there's no power. But the only thing I'm trying to look at is this: I'm trying to be optimistic and go, you know what? Miles Straw is hitting above what he did last year.
Right.
Because you got to think about it. These guys go into the offseason like, I'm going to put the work in, I'm going to get in the cages, I'm going to do everything I can to get better. And right now, for like a Miles Straw at the bottom of the order, he actually did improve over last season. But his ceiling is only so high. We all know that. We all feel that fourth outfield spot. Hell, look, the Astros traded him how many years ago for
Right.
him to not even be their fourth outfield spot. And we're using him as a starter center fielder because of his defense. Um, but yeah, I think that we see the holes, and people, Guardians Twitter, see the holes in the lineup, and when they want to talk analytics and all that. But I'm still telling you right now, Terry Francona has to measure or has to manage with his gut, so to speak. Now, not all the time, but there's times where he's going to manage with his gut. And to be honest with you, if I'm a manager, I don't care if I'm Terry Francona or a guy that's just got in the league for 2 years. There is no way in hell a fan base is going to be calling the shots on
Right.
what I do on the field. Bottom line, you already have managers in some aspects, not just baseball, but football and NBA is who's going to play.
Right.
The front office trying to dip down and tell the coaches what they're doing, and the coaches giving pushback. Thank God we don't have that, right? You don't hear
Right.
players talking about that. You hear nothing but positive things. I don't think it's a bunch of gibberish. I think it's authentic. What's going on in that locker room? That we have a bunch of good guys, and Mel and I talked about that all last season. Even our off-season interviews with our draft picks and some of the minor leaguers of like, we get done with the conversation, we're like, holy cow, man, what a great quality kid or great quality person before we even really know about all the baseball, right? And
Right.
why he's on the team. So the organization's doing the right thing and bringing quality people in here that can play ball. And are we at the level as our major league roster as what everybody else is? No, we're not from a talent perspective. Yeah, it is. It's hard to watch games like last night, but it's the night before on 4th of July. The David Fry game, the Miles Straw throw from the outfield, Fry's tag to Fry's hit to win the game. That's why we tune in every night.
Right.
That's what it's about, because you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, that's baseball. That's why we
Yeah.
love baseball, because it could be a bad game the night before, but 9 times out of 10, there's a game, the next night or the next afternoon. And, as fans, we do get hung up on, oh, but that game on Monday, but as the players, and definitely with a great coach like Terry Francona, future Hall of Famer, you know, he's got the guys focusing on that next game and that next at bat, not dwelling on what's in the past, because the past, you can't, no matter how hard they try, they can't change the past. They can't, Miles Straw can't go back and bump his average for 2022 up 20 points, no matter what he does this year. So, like you said, it is good to see that, the power numbers aren't there and probably never will be there, because that's not his game. But if he's putting the ball in play, and hopefully when he's getting on base, he's looking to steal bases, that's something that has rubbed some fans the wrong way with
Mm-hmm.
Straw this year, that he hasn't looked to, use that speed to his advantage to try to get to second on a infield single. So that way it sets up Juan and Rosario, for those RBI situations. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, I think, the thought, even going back to last year, despite his struggles, it kind of gives you that traditional leadoff man at the bottom of the lineup. So later in the game, when you're not having that 1 through 3, 4 through 7, or 4 through 6, 7 through 9 coming up, and the lineup kind of gets flipped around a little bit, having someone like that at the bottom of the lineup to get on base, to move up on a stolen base, those can lead to some big innings for this team.
Yeah, and I want to keep talking about our hitters for right now. Josh Naylor had the wrist injury, and it might not be that much of an injury as far as it is maybe, I think they said tendonitis, because
Right.
I'm looking right now at the box score for tonight, and he's batting in the 4 hole.
Right.
Not
Good.
surprised, right?
Right.
Josh wants to play. He's a gamer. Glad to have him out there. I think he probably sees, the rest coming up for All-Star Weekend. So let's get out there. Let's try to get this division lead real quick before we go into All-Star break. So hats off to Josh Naylor. Literally want to do that, because anybody watching on YouTube, I just took my hat off, because it drives me nuts when people say hats off to somebody and they just leave their hat on.
Right.
Follow up, right? Do what you said you're going to do. But yeah, looking at our offense, Josh Bell, when his name stuck out to me, I had a thought this week, and I ran it by Kevin, the godfather of Blue Lamb Media.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Kevin, I said, and I put this on Twitter on a poll too. I said, what do you think if Josh Bell, we would trade him to Pittsburgh and get Carlos Santana back? Josh Bell would go home to Pittsburgh, well, back to Pittsburgh anyways. We'd get, to me, I looked at Santana, if he would come back, maybe he's one of those minor moves that we could make where we got some, veteran playoff experience, a guy that'll bring even that much more, a little bit life, and definitely plate discipline and walks back to the city. It reminds me of Kenny Lofton coming back again in 2007 and being that nice boost for that team come playoff time. I mean, I haven't heard any rumors on that. That's literally me just pulling that out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have a Carlos Santana back, just because he was one of my favorites when he was here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree that, someone like Santana in this lineup would do wonderful and would help take the pressure off of some of the, that Andres Jimenez, who maybe has tried a little too hard this year to replicate last year. But yeah, that would be interesting. It'd definitely be worth a phone call to Pittsburgh, given that Josh Bell's best years came as a Pirate, especially 2019. That's kind of the year everyone kind of, pigeonholes for him. Like, this is what Josh Bell can be, and that's why he signed the contract here, hoping to have another year like that and re-enter free agency. But the way this year's gone, I highly doubt that unless he's hating Cleveland with a vengeance, I don't see him declining that player option going into next year with the money that's promised. So I think his name might come up in um, trade rumors here over the next couple weeks. It would definitely be selling low on Cleveland's part because of the struggles that he's had this year. But if moving him can open up um, opportunities to get a Gabriel Arias regular regular plate appearances rather, and try to see some of these younger guys to see are these guys that we can count on in 2024 moving forward, or is it or are they more in that realm of Oscar Gonzalez where we think we have something and then you know come to the realization rather quick in the following year that it might not be as all that glitters isn't gold sort
Right.
of thing. So
Yeah, and I would say, you were talking about Gabriel Arias, but what, 3 plate appearances over the last week, so not really an opportunity to show your stuff. I know a lot of people want to see him get more playing time. I will sign myself up for this, even for what I have saw, and I don't mean in the last week.
mhm,
Um, I see more potential in Tyler Freeman.
right. Yeah,
I like his comfortability, his the hustle he went from that first to third play over the last week.
mhm,
And the other person I want to point out that because I said I think Fryman, you keep giving him opportunity or Fryman, what is it, 1997?
yeah, really.
Tyler Freeman, give him more opportunities. I really want to see what he has and what he can do. But the guy really too that really looks like he's settling down and gaining more and more confidence, like he belongs. And it's probably ever since that Kansas City series, prior to the Cubs series that last week, is Will Brennan.
Yeah,
There's something about watching him at the plate now, and you feel that confidence where he's just waiting back on his pitch.
right. I definitely see that as well. And I think seeing that is probably what maybe hesitates Tito from maybe making that switch and making him the center fielder because he doesn't want to add the defensive responsibility that a center fielder will have when Brendan's just now kind of catching his footing rather here at the major league level.
Yeah, especially that diving play he made where he injured his shoulder or whatever
Right.
on that one play, and thankfully he wasn't out long. Um, I think back to Grady Sizemore, the
Right.
way he was just balls out going after every ball, and what a hell of an athlete he was, and injuries cut his career short. But these guys, when I played just even around the area, whether it be baseball or softball, it was go all out, and I'll rest when I get to the car.
Right.
And that's the kind of players that I love on our team. And that's the kind of attitude and the hustle that I love about our team. And it's what we loved last year. They're still hustling. They're still putting in the work. Unfortunately, we're just not in first place with the record that we had a year ago. And it really, 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 and I'm trying to drive this home and trying to correct Twitter is about impossible, right? Trying to get people on Twitter to be positive is about impossible, except for the ones that don't need help, the ones that are great people and are really there to have some fun with it and enjoy being fans and interacting with each other. But, we need some positive energy with this team. This team needs our support. They need and when I look at the Cleveland fan base, the Guardians fan base as a whole, I think we've forgotten what we had at the beginning of the year. And at the beginning of the year, we were rallying around the number one fan that we'll probably ever have in the loss of John Adams.
Right.
And I really think in the spirit of John Adams and what he meant to our stadium, to progress from old Cleveland Stadium to Jacobs Field to Progressive Field, and that drum beat and the heartbeat of the team, I really think we need to focus and remember what John was all about, because John would drum no matter who was on second base. It wouldn't matter if it's a Jose Ramirez who's an MVP type player. It didn't matter if it was a Miles Straw who hasn't had a home run yet. He
Yeah.
cheered every player on that had that Cleveland jersey on. And that's what I'd love to see our fan base go back to and get focused on is supporting each other and supporting this team because we're so close to getting that same ticket of the 3 seed in the playoffs, becoming AL Central champions. Once again, we are going to need our fan support out at the Progressive Field every avenue possible in order to achieve that goal. And if we just go hot into the playoffs, go hot, who knows what could happen? What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely you want to play your best ball there in September leading into October because you look at the year that they won the 22 in a row. That was that 2017 or I can't
I'd,
remember.
I'd have to look because I actually bought the newspaper the next day. Yeah, for kids that don't know, that's an actual paper you buy at the store and read it. It's not on your phone. Um, but I
Right.
actually bought it and framed it, and I have it down here in my cave of champions of 22 straight wins. And it is mind boggling to think. I mean, I would almost like, I bet there's a video, a highlight video that has all 22 wins in a row. And I'd love to go back and watch that and see how we pulled so many of those games out.
Right.
But it was so much fun. But remember, that team was hot, but
Right.
they were so hot, but they were still a few weeks away from once the streak was broke, they were still a few weeks away from the postseason. And then I think we got swept by the Astros.
Right. Yeah,
So it just goes to show.
that's where I was going with it is, you can get that hot streak, but if it's not at the right time and you can't time those things, they come very naturally when they do come, but that's when you want to hit the gas all the way is that late September going into October and you know, there's there's no telling what can happen if you get on a one of those hot streaks.
Yeah, and we do have our 2 All Stars representing the All Star game, Jose Ramirez and Emmanuel Clase. So I'm looking forward to that. I think most Guardians fans would be okay if Clase didn't appear.
Right.
Let him get some extended rest over All Star weekend. But we looked. There was something that came up on that was on Cleveland Guardians release, right, about the bullpen ranks for this year. Derek, do you
Yes.
or for this where we are currently this season? You want to go ahead and speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I saw it this afternoon on their socials and it kind of caught me by surprise because, we kind of hear, especially here recently with Kwase having that blunder there the other night, giving up 4 runs and the struggles that uh, Stefan has had here. To know that even despite those struggles here recently, still for the season thus far, the bullpen ranks second in ERA with a 3.12, second in batting average against with a .219, first in WHIP 1.16, and first in ERA with a 2.28. Or excuse me, that's their home ERA.
Yeah,
Second overall at 3.12, but in games played at Progressive Field, the bullpen's ERA is only 2.28. So even though we have those times where the sky seems to be falling because Emmanuel Clase shows that he's human, it only happens maybe once a month, but when that happens, everyone comes out of the woodwork and, oh, he's overrated.
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
I mean, the night he blew the save, I watched from the highlights. I didn't see that right at the end. I had
Mhm.
missed that, but the ball he threw was 101 miles an hour. So it's not
Right,
like he had a dead arm or anything.
right,
Some nights the baseball gods are just not with you.
right.
It's just the way it is. It's been that way for over 100 years, and it's never going to stop. So yeah, I mean, we talked about in the offseason. I know I mentioned that sometimes usually a bullpen after having a great season can have a little bit of an off
Right.
season the next season. But currently, right now, our stats don't show it. There might be a few guys that, yeah, if you look at their individual numbers, where other guys are playing above where they were last year, and a few guys are a little bit below. I think it's evened itself out, and based on those numbers, we still got a great bullpen. We have nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
You know, Trevor Steffen's working through some struggles. I don't know if it's location. I'm not a big analytics guy.
Right.
Me and Charles Barkley on the same page. So love you, Charles. I'm sure you're listening.
Like,
Um, but yeah, I still think that one of the best bullpens in baseball. Like I said, the stats don't lie.
right.
And it's going to be fun. I love the All Star game because you always get to see players from your team. I lived through the years when we only had that one player that got picked, and they weren't necessarily the
Right.
best player, maybe, but they got picked. And so be thankful what we have. That's what I'm trying to tell you because, you know, I've lived through some losing seasons back in the day as a kid. And like you said, you started following right around 95 once Progressive Field opened or Jacobs Field opened. 94, the excitement came. You know, the Browns moved away, so there was a total focus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Cavs were okay then, but the big focus was on baseball in that new stadium that many of us thought we'd never see in our lifetime.
Right.
Because I always talked about renovating Cleveland Municipal Stadium. So, yeah, Progressive Field's been fantastic. Still one of the best ballparks in the country. And you know, I need to get I need to get my own butt up to a game. You been up to a
I've
game this year?
I've been to one. When the Yankees came to town, the team ran a special $11 tickets for Jose Ramirez. So
Mm-hmm.
my dad, brother, me, and my son went up for the day game that Boone got ejected in like the first inning or something, and that game where Rosario fired the ball in on a relay throw and whacked the second base umpire square on the side of the head. They lost that game, but it was still a good game. It was good atmosphere, especially there in the first inning. They took the lead on the hated Yankees, and my son, he was 4 at the time, he's booing the Yankees because everyone around him's booing the Yankees, and it was a great memory. And watching the game on TV is one thing, but there is something to be said about going and being in the stadium and
Yeah.
around fellow fans. And sometimes you do get those, fans that aren't the best to be around, and they tend to show up, like you said, on Twitter. Maybe now that Threads is a thing, maybe they won't come over to Threads and we can
All
all
right.
all migrate there. But yeah, definitely still, all these, what is it, almost 30 years now of Progressive Field or Jacobs Field as it was, and it's still, you walk in and you still get butterflies.
Yeah. I mean, the energy of the crowd is something I call myself an adrenaline, easy for me to say, adrenaline junkie because I love going to stadiums. I love going to arenas. I
Mhm.
love feeling the crowd and just getting into the moment and just being outside, enjoying yourself. And the game of baseball, I reflect back to last 4th of July. We were down in Cincinnati and, you know, we saw the fireworks down there, first time ever down at Great American Ballpark. And anybody that's never been to Great American Ballpark in Cincy, you got to go. Fantastic location. If you decide to go on 4th of July, I sat up on the left, I would say third base side, upper level. And because it was high enough, I actually called their ticket agency and said, hey, we're going to be down there for 4th of July. Where's one of the best sections to sit? And it wasn't down low. It was actually up high, third base side. And the reason why is because you could look over right field where the stands were
Mhm.
and over the Ohio River. And you could watch in Kentucky while the game was going on. You could see fireworks going off in Kentucky during the game. It was really, really neat.
That's
And
awesome.
then once the Reds lit all their fireworks off, you've seen this Kentucky side go, okay, let's go time. And they
Right.
upped the ante and they were throwing a bunch more out there. So I got awesome video of that. It was an awesome time. There's nothing like baseball or 4th of July being in the baseball stadium.
Right.
Um, I should have brought an apple pie last year, and then we would have been, you know,
But then,
USA baseball apple pie. We'd have been
right.
had the hat trick on that one.
Yes.
So, well, we talked enough about that. Why don't we talk a little bit, Derek, about the series that's going on right now? and how that's going to lead us into All-Star break. What kind of pitching matchups do we have?
Yeah, tonight we got. Let me pull it up here. 1 second, sorry. Yeah,
Well, I know
tonight we got.
tonight we
Yeah,
have Tanner Bybee going against Lyles, and then go ahead with the rest of the weekend.
yeah. Then tomorrow we got Aaron Savali against Lynch, and then on Saturday afternoon we have Gavin Williams looking to continue his success against Brady Singer. And Kansas City hasn't announced who they're starting Sunday, but the Guardians are going with Shane Bieber to wrap up the first half of the season and let Jose and Emmanuel get out to Seattle and the rest of them take that much needed break. Need that mental break here. The season's long. The fans need a break. The players need a break. The coaches need a break. The broadcasters. Everyone needs those 3 or 4
Podcasters
days.
need a break.
Yeah, yeah. We need a break. We need. Yeah. So it's definitely that time of the year where everyone's dragging, and I think they kind of have a benefit being at home right before the All Star break.
Yeah.
Kind of are able to relax a little bit more than sitting in a hotel room planning your vacation. Can kind of do it from home. And yeah, it doesn't get easy coming out of the break though with going to Texas. I think they're the most surprising team in baseball this year, honestly, leading the AL West right now, and they've done it without their big offseason acquisition of Jacob DeGrom.
Yeah, so it should be, exciting. Like I said, how tight can we get this division lead before the All-Star break? So let's beat up on Kansas City.
Right,
I know last year we beat up on a lot of losing teams, didn't have a lot of wins against the winning teams. We got to change that second half of the year. We got to see something different, whether it's on the roster, on the field. We expect changes. Off-season predictions was they were that we were going to have one big move to finally put us over the hump to win that World Series. I'm going to change that. I don't see the front office being that aggressive. In fact, with the need of needing Bieber to pitch innings, with McKenzie out, with now Quantrill down again, Cody Morris is up. We still need an ace of the staff
right,
to help these young guys, not only just to fill innings in and hopefully get wins, but just as a leadership standpoint. Because if not, we're going to get a lot younger. Like I said, how AAA do we want to get?
right.
And as much as I love our talent, who knows? What let's say this. What's your prediction for the second half of the season? As far as, can you name one player that you think is going to make an impact that's going to help us win this division?
I think Andres Jimenez. I think after the All Star break, I think he'll come in refocused, looking to drive the ball opposite way. He started to there for a while earlier this month, or not this month, but back in June, started to look to drive the ball more opposite way. I think if he gets back to doing that, he can definitely take off in the second half, and I think the rest of the offense kind of will follow that lead.
Yeah, it's a great prediction. I mean, based on where he finished in the MVP voting last year, got his extension in the offseason. That's a great prediction. I'm going to save mine for now. Obviously, Jose is our MVP type player. Can he look more MVP ish, if you will, in the second half? I sure hope so. But there might be just another name out there, whether it's even on this roster, that's probably going to make the biggest impact with this team. So, but we can wrap it up tonight. I appreciate all of our Guardians of the CLE podcast listeners for tuning in this week. We appreciate that support. Please follow us at Believe Land Media. We are all across all social media platforms. And we are presenting. Derek, do you want to announce what's going on with you with I know it's only July, but with your future career, not only is helping support Believe Land Media, but what else you're doing outside of Believe Land?
Yeah, so I recently was offered and accepted a position with Q92 Sports out of the Canton area, doing some football color commentary for their high school coverage this fall. But I'll still be still be doing the recaps here for Believe Land, and Cameron Palmer and I also are starting our Believe Land prep podcast. We did our intro episode earlier this afternoon, so look for that where you get your podcast episodes, and as well as on YouTube, as Kevin does a great job of putting our video recordings of all of our podcasts on YouTube if you prefer that medium to watch your podcast.
Well, hey, congratulations on that. Q92's newest guy. Thank you for what you're going to be doing for covering high school sports in our area, especially our Stark County schools where we're both from.
Yep.
So, yeah, looking forward to that coverage. And also, one last shout out for you is great job. You and Marshawn Powers covering the USFL season down at Tom Benson Stadium in Canton. You guys did an exceptional job. Heard nothing but great feedback for the coverage you guys had. So continued success, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you so much, James. That means a lot coming from you.
Okay. Well, hey, Guards fans, stay tuned. We're going to be recording again like usual next week. Mel Kirby, we miss you tonight, but we'll see you soon. And but we're looking to hopefully announce a guest for next week's pod recording. So stay tuned early in the week. We hope to be able to provide that information to you at that time. So any last words, Derek?
Just, this is a perfect weekend for the Guardians to make up some ground with Minnesota hosting Baltimore. Baltimore's been hot all year. Let's try to sweep the Royals and see if by recording next week over the All-Star break, it's the Guardians in first.
I can't agree more. That's something I would love to see, but no matter what it takes, we'll keep fighting all season. Hopefully that we end up on the playoff side of the standings at the end of the season. But for now, let's just enjoy All-Star break.
Right.
Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. Continue to support Believe Land Media. Thank you for all of our support individually. And we look forward to the next recording for you next week. So take care, enjoy All-Star Weekend, and have a good night, everybody.